Fellowship for Affordable Biopharmaceuticals. After multiple informative sessions, it is our humble responsibility to acknowledge the pioneer Dr. K. Anji Reddy for his revolutionizing contribution in pharma and biopharma industry. Scientist, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Dr. K. Anji Reddy's passion for drug discovery and his pioneering contribution to making medicine affordable are legendary.
This fellowship has been envisaged to honor the life and dedication to the pharmaceutical field of Dr. K. Anji Reddy, our beloved alumnus and founder of Dr. Reddy's lab. We would now like to show you a short video.
The Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai, is one of the world's leading institutes in chemical science and technology. The institute ranks amongst the top 3 institutes and universities in India. Having completed almost 90 years since its establishment, it has a rich history of having produced capable, competent and socially aware engineers, academicians and entrepreneurs. More than 500 first-generation entrepreneurs from the institute are contributing billions of rupees to the national economy. The institute has produced 3 Padma Vibhushan, 8 Padma Bhushan, 10 Padma Shri awardees and 2 Fellows of the Royal Society FRS. The institute has grown to become a premier university devoted to education, training, research and industrial collaborations in various fields of chemistry, biotechnology and bioprocessing technology. The Nanomedicine Research Group is a group of dedicated researchers working in ICT Mumbai. The research group engages in active research in 2 major areas, namely the development of biopharmaceuticals and the development of alternative to animal models for preclinical research. Since its inception, the research group has promoted training and research and is committed to skill development in the aforementioned domains. Over the past 7 years, it has trained more than 3,000 students and still counting. Its flagship event, the Biosimilar Workshop, is one of the largest gatherings of biopharmaceutical researchers in India. In its 4th year, the workshop has been organized to promote the participation of professionals from industry, academia and startups. The scientific programs include a wide range of topics encompassing biopharmaceutical product development. This event will promote rigorous learning and networking opportunities and provide an opportunity to meet professionals, academicians and researchers from all over the world, further promoting the establishment of new practices or revision of existing ones. For the first time, during Biosimilar Workshop, we shall be honoring leaders in pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical through the institution of Dr. K. Anji Reddy Memorial Fellowship for Affordable Biopharmaceuticals. This fellowship has been envisaged to honor the life of Dr. K. Anji Reddy, founder of Dr. Reddy's Lab, and his dedication to the pharmaceutical industry. Our beloved alumnus, Dr. Kallam Anji Reddy, was a well-known scientist, entrepreneur and philanthropist. An erudite and patriotic visionary, he set up Dr. Reddy's laboratories in 1984 to make affordable medicines and worked to make Dr. Reddy's a hub for research and innovation in the pharmaceutical domain. A decade later, he was encouraged to help others to also share and reap the benefits of India's economic growth. He started Dr. Reddy's Foundation in 1996 with the vision of assisting young and disadvantaged groups to have access to quality education and developing skills to match pace with modern day challenges. Dr. K. Anji Reddy received one of the highest civilian honor, Padma Shri, in 2001 and later the Padma Bhushan for his contribution to the Indian pharmaceutical industry. His autobiography, Unfinished Agenda, shows his zeal and faith in science and his urge to do what he could in every walk of life with unwavering conviction. Mr. Satish Reddy is the chairman of Dr. Reddy's Laboratories and Dr. Reddy's Foundation. He is known for his key role in shaping various policies. Under his leadership, Dr. Reddy's lab transformed itself into a finished dosage form company from traditional API manufacturing. The company has expanded beyond national boundaries and has become one of India's leading pharmaceutical companies with a global footprint. Mr. Satish Reddy holds great interest in exploring how human capital can be channelized to add to the productive power of the country. Apart from his business interests, he is a strong advocate of responsible corporate citizenship and supports various not-for-profit organizations. Dr. Reddy's Foundation is one that is close to his heart, and as a hands-on chairman, he takes a keen interest in all the activities and encourages the foundation to innovate and explore new models of vocational education to create a sustainable livelihood for the country's youth. To the man with a nation-building vision, ICT Mumbai takes pride in delivering this prestigious fellowship to Mr. Satish Reddy.
We now invite Professor M.M. Sharma, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Institute of Chemical Technology, Professor A.B. Pandit, Professor Bhagwat, and Mr. Satish Reddy on the stage. I now request Dr. Atnesh Jain to please come on the dais to felicitate Professor M.M. Sharma. Um, Dr. Atnesh, please felicitate Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit. So please felicitate Dr. A.B. Pandit, Professor A.B. Pandit, sorry. And also Professor Bhagwat. I now request Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, to say a few words.
Today's awardee, Mr. Satish Reddy, Professor M.M. Sharma, Guruji of all, Professor Sunil Bhagwat, and all those who are present here in the audience. I'm really delighted to be a part of this particular felicitation function. And I feel that many a times the way alumni feels that when they get something from the institute, they feel obliged to offer something in return to the institute. And here it's a slightly reverse role which we are playing, is whatever our alumni, Dr. K. Anji Reddy, has done to the pharmaceutical company, we would like to acknowledge his contribution through this particular award, and we expect this legacy of Dr. K. Anji Reddy to continue. In addition to what was shown in the small video clip which was about Dr. K. Anji Reddy, I am well aware of the fact that many pharmaceutical industries and startups have had their origin with Dr. Anji Reddy's lab, where many of them were working with Dr. Reddy as chemists, as associates, and then went on to establish their own organizations. Now that itself shows the kind of inspiration or which he must have given to his fellow associates, and one of the major reasons for instituting this award as well as honoring Shri Satish Reddy with that award is essentially show to the ICT alumni as well as those who have been associated with ICT's 90 years of life or 90 years of working, is how an institute can take care of the alumni, and alumni can also take care of the institute. We have been able to do this only because of a continued assistance, continued help from alumni, without which it would not have been possible for us to maintain the progress which we are currently maintaining. It is not necessary that you contribute only in terms of money, but it is equally important to contribute in terms of direction, in terms of focus, and we feel that our alumni has been doing that very well, and that is how they are guiding the destiny of ICT. I am delighted that Shri Satish Reddy accepted this award to him, and we hope we will get many more occasions to honor people who have contributed to the pharmaceutical industry in India. And the next big thing which is going to come is indeed the topic of biosimilars. So I hope in few years' time we will have an opportunity to honor somebody in the area of biologics and biosimilars which would have made an impact in the world pharmaceutical industry. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Shri Satish Reddy, and I would like to compliment the organizers as well as team of Ratnesh Jain, Prajakta Jain and their dedicated students for this outstandingly conducted huge biosimilar workshop. Thank you very much.
I now request Dr. Ratnesh Jain to please come on stage and elaborate more on the fellowship.
Professor M.M. Sharma, Professor Bhagwat, Professor Pandit, and Shri Satish Reddy. First of all, thank you for accepting this award as indicated by Professor Pandit. The fellowship is instituted in this particular program with a vision that the growing pharmaceutical industry which is creating a significant impact in last many decades. And this particular pandemic has demonstrated that what Indian biopharmaceutical or pharmaceutical industry can deliver not only to the country but also to the world. The vaccine availability of significant amount of drugs with much affordable price is a simple demonstration what India can deliver to the world. And when we were thinking back again that what has been achieved in this country by the industry has somehow not been acknowledged. And with our beloved alumnus, Dr. K.N.G. Reddy, we took this opportunity that he is the one who has demonstrated in those times when it was very tough or very difficult to begin this kind of operation, this kind of industry, which is now going and growing with a very rapid pace. So with these few words, I wish to end my speech here, that this particular fellowship will continue in each version of this workshop, which we are now rebranding as a biologics workshop from 2025. And we will also take this opportunity to celebrate success and growth of industry, and will make sure that leadership of this country and the success of our industry is celebrated in each of the events we conduct in near future. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Dr. Prajakta Dandekar Jain to read the citation.
Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to read this citation today. Mr. Satish Reddy, the chairman of Dr. Reddy's laboratories, joined the company in 1993 and since then has held positions of increasing responsibility. He holds a degree in chemical engineering from Osmania University, India, and an MS in medicinal chemistry from the Purdue University, USA, where he received the 2009 Distinguished Alumnus Award from the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. Mr. Satish led Dr. Reddy's laboratories' transition from a uni-focused manufacturer of active pharmaceutical ingredients to a company that moved up the value chain with a diverse product portfolio of finished dosage formulations. He commanded the expansion and establishment of a strong footprint for Dr. Reddy's finished dosage products in Russia, China, and other emerging markets as an active member of major industry associations and government panels. He is the chairman of the CII National Committee on IPR and a member of the IGBA CEO Advisory Committee. Mr. Satish also leads various national committees on the India G20 presidency for 2023. He was the president of the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, a premier industry association of leading research-based Indian companies from 2019 to 21 and 2013 to 15. He was the chairman of the Life Sciences Skill Development Council under the National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC, an organization working in partnership with various stakeholders to serve and address the skill shortfalls in the life sciences sector in India. He was a member of the Drugs Technical Advisory Board of India, the chairman of the Andhra Pradesh chapter of the Confederation of Indian Industries, and the head of its National Committee on Pharmaceuticals. In May 2015, the Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India, nominated Mr. Satish as chairman of the Board of Governors of the National Safety Council. Mr. Satish has a great interest to delve into and maneuver human capital to add to the productive power of the country. As an active member of the major industry associations and governmental panels, Mr. Satish played a key role in shaping policies concerning the pharmaceutical sector that includes India's patent law, drug pricing, and important amendments to the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. He has worked in building an organization based on Dr. K. Anji Reddy's vision of providing high-quality medicines at affordable prices to the people of India and across the globe. In the recognition of his exemplary contribution to the growth of the Indian pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical industry, Biosimilar Workshop, the flagship event of the Institute of Chemical Technology, is proud to bestow upon him Dr. K. Anji Reddy Memorial Fellowship for Affordable Biopharmaceuticals Award today on February 2nd, 2023.
Before we present the award, I would like to invite Dr. Ratnesh Jain and Dr. Prajakta Jain on the dais. We would now request Honorable Vice Chancellor of ICT, Professor A.B. Pandit, to present the award to Mr. Satish Reddy. I would now like to call upon Mr. Satish Reddy to enlighten us with his words of wisdom.
So very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Dr. Sharma, Professor Pandit, Professor Bhagwat, Ratnesh, Dr. Prajakta. Extremely happy that and extremely grateful to the Institute of Chemical Technology for having instituted this award in the name of my father and the founder of Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. It's in fact a recognition for all the hard work that he has done over the years, not just in building the company, but also in terms of shaping the pharmaceutical industry. Because his whole life, if you see, it kind of mirrors the evolution of the pharmaceutical industry, which I will share a few thoughts soon. I'm also extremely humbled and grateful that you have bestowed this honor to me personally, although I don't think I really deserve this because there's still lots more to do, and especially coming from the shadow of what Dr. Reddy has done all these years. It is just a continuation of all the great things that he had done. We continue to be inspired. We continue to carry on his legacy in the various things that he built over a period of time. Just again, as you've seen that he was an alumni of ICT. I was telling Professor Sharma that I only know of UDCT because since my childhood, my father always talked very, very fondly about UDCT. Which is where he did his college in. And he had a lot of good memories of that. So there were some reflections of that also in the book that was displayed, his autobiography, The Unfinished Agenda. And one of it was quite something because if you see, Dr. Reddy had quite an expansive vision of the pharmaceutical industry in those days in terms of what he wanted to be. And interestingly, the seeds of those thoughts were sown in the UDCT, the Institute of Chemical Technology. He also writes about it because he joined, for his BSc there, the Bachelor of Science at that point of time. But then I think when he started, it was in, textiles. He got admission there. But very quickly, he got interested in pharmaceuticals. And then he talks about how he got inspired when he looked at a pilot plant which was set up in the university for making a tuberculosis drug for this world-famous company called Pfizer. So the bashful young man he was in those days, he said that one day he will build a company on his own like Pfizer. Well, was his kind of a dream, as a young man. So in terms of whether he built a company like Pfizer or not, but as far as we are concerned in India, I think it's much more than that because, like I said, his life mirrored the evolution of the Indian pharmaceutical industry because it all started off, much earlier because he was a scientist in IDPL in those days. He joined in 1967, the year that I was born in. In fact, the month I was born in, he joined IDPL in Hyderabad. But very quickly, I think about 7-8 years later, he turned entrepreneur. And one of the defining moments of the Indian pharmaceutical industry was the Indian Patents Act of 1970. That was a defining moment because it played to his strengths. He was a scientist who was translating lab scale processes into the commercial scale in IDPL. With that experience, he came out and then he started his own ventures, initially with partners, but finally he decided to go on his own in 1984. But that whole journey initially was about APIs. Today we talk about self-reliance, we talk about a lot of incentive schemes, but that was the issue at that point of time because most of these were imported at very high prices. And then when these were translated into formulations for the patients, they were at a very, very high price. Right? So what changed in the Indian pharmaceutical industry through the production of APIs, all this we're talking about early 80s, also into the 90s, was self-reliance in terms of all the big products being produced in India itself, and also because of the Patents Act, because it was only process patents that were recognized and not the product patents, a lot of new medicines could be introduced in India if you made it through a different process. So that was a simple formula in terms of what he looked at. But what was important, I thought I should share this, is the values and the purpose with which he founded the company. I mean, he always used to be inspired by this quote of George Merck, who started the Merck company centuries ago. And one of the quotes was especially about saying that the medicines are for the people. It's not for the profits, that it will follow, but medicines are for the people. As long as we remember it's for that, the profits will follow. Was something that inspired him quite a bit, and that's something he kept as a mantra throughout his journey, because especially when it came to pricing of products in India. Right? Because we used to make the bulk active, because we used to develop it ourselves, because we also made it into a formulation, it used to be launched into the market at a very affordable price. We could have launched it at a much higher price because we were the first in the market. But to him, it was very, very clear. He said it should reach the people. So, and he used to calculate, have a simple formula and say that, it's like whatever is required to recover the cost and make a margin, but rest of it should, it's like it should really reach the market. Examples of norfloxacin, ciprofloxacin, omeprazole, these are examples of products that used to be so highly priced, at least 5-6 times in those days, even coming from Indian companies at that point of time, right? But then Dr. Reddy would price it at a price which would reach to a number of people. So because ultimately it's the formula of making sure that it's about affordable medicines, that the reach should be wide, and then you will also make money in the process. That was a value system which he did. And that's something that still inspires us even today when we talk about the purpose of Dr. Reddy's. We say access to affordable medicines. Even today we still say that. Because now we're not just looking at India, we're looking at the world stage. And then saying that any market that we enter, whether it's the generics in the US, which is the largest market, or Russia, where we have a large presence, any market, right, China, everywhere, it's all about access, improving the access. It's about providing affordable medicines. That's something sticks to us. Rest of the journey, it's something that you're all familiar with, because if you see, especially movement from API to formulations is something I've just talked about, not only just in India, but also to other markets that opened up, because another significant event in the early 90s was liberalization. India also became a signatory to GATT at that point of time, the GATT. And then it also offered to amend its patent laws. So in terms of access to overseas markets, that was available. So one of the first markets was Russia. And then a whole host of countries in the emerging markets we started off. But then the big prize was obviously the US, the generic industry, which also opened up early 90s. And that's something, again, with a lot of work. It's not as easy as it sounds, that, but it was a lot of difficult work. But there also the big dent was made, because we used to challenge the patents under the law which used to be prevailing at the time. And then again, we used to make available generics for the first time in that country. So there were a lot of firsts which the company enjoyed. And among them, you probably saw one of the photographs of us, of Dr. Reddy ringing the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. That also is a symbolic of the company for the aspect of something called governance, and also really being there on the world stage. Obviously, the purpose was to raise money to fund discovery at that point of time. That was the purpose. But then in terms of governance, in the kind of people we were able to attract to serve on the board of the company, in terms of the disclosures we made, all of them stand as a first in the Indian industry, not just pharmaceuticals at that point of time. And that's something we still continue to believe in. So today, when you keep hearing about ESG, governance being an important point, this is something we practiced through and through in the journey of the company, and that's something we're extremely proud of. But I think the most important thing, and this is what I want to end with, is about his passion for discovery. The title of his book, which said Unfinished Agenda, because he had this conviction, and that's not something that he did gradually. It's not that just, that he made a very successful company that he got into it. You'd be surprised to hear that if he started Dr. Reddy's in 1984, it was predominantly an API company. He took that big leap of faith and started research, original drug discovery, in the year 1992. I mean, just to describe the events, to say that somebody who, because it was unprecedented, no other company across the world has ever done that, nor done it today. The Economist, which is a magazine which I'm sure most of you would read, in those days, described Dr. Reddy as a deluded scientist. That, here is a man from India, which according to them just copied the products, that he would actually get into drug discovery, discover original products, that it would be delusion. Obviously, they had to eat their own words, because 5 years later, sometime in 97, the first of the molecules discovered, original molecule, in the field of diabetes, PPAR gamma inhibitors in those days, was licensed to a multinational, and the multinational was Novo Nordisk. The very second year, 98, just after that, another product was licensed, first in class again, not a Me Too product, but first in class compound, licensed to Novartis. So this was a kind of demonstration of conviction, not only just conviction, but also taking the big risk, for a company at that size, to even invest so much into research. That's something which he did. But as it plays out, it's not an easy game. Drug discovery is very difficult. It's highly risky, but it's also highly rewarding. So he kept going at it. But obviously, the entire class of PPAR gamma inhibitors went into a cloud, so we had to completely stop that. But this is the thing about Dr. Reddy. He continued to persist. He was very passionate about it. So our subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary in Bangalore called Origin Oncology today, some of my colleagues are also here today from the company, it still continues. That journey continues. There are almost about 17, 18 products in the clinical pipeline at this point of time. And that unfinished agenda of his is about introducing an Indian discovered molecule in the global market. That's his dream. And that is the unfinished agenda, and which, again, it's not an easy thing, because we're still at it 30 years after we started the research. We're still going at it, and we'll still continue this. But it's not an easy thing. Maybe at this stage of the company, we could, probably afford this kind of research. So one of the things about the industry, because I've also, engaged very closely with a lot of discussions with the government. Professor Gupta is here, so several times we've had discussions. The issue is when it comes to innovation as far as India is concerned, what's proven clearly is that we have the capabilities. A lot of great work. I've just been through the posters that Ratnesh showed. Not just, although it's named as biosimilars workshop this time, I'm glad that you're changing it to biologics. There's a lot of great work that's going on. It's great science being built up in institutions like ICT and over the years, and also institutions across the country. So there's capabilities which is there among companies. But when it comes to that, it's an ecosystem that needs to come into place. And that's where I think we've made recommendations. I won't dwell into detail, but one of the things relevant to the audience here is especially the part on academic and industry collaboration. That's something we very, very strongly feel for, and that's something we look forward to, because only if institutions of excellence who basically develop the people, who develop the scientific capabilities, only then we can actually move on to the next level. That's very much required. From the industry point also, in terms of collaborating on research projects, in terms of really getting there in the cutting edge of science, because it's all changing. Technologies have changed, because if you see the pharmaceutical industry at this point of time, things are changing very, very rapidly. COVID has changed quite a few things. I was extremely happy to hear about a lot of work which ICT, for example, is doing in mRNA technologies. Ratnesh did show me one equipment which you had developed for the first time in the country. So, I mean, these are the technologies, cell and gene therapy. Even if you take digital, for example, it's changed the entire chain, not just in the the technology part, but if you see all the way from development of the drugs to the clinical trials, even if you see in the market, right, in terms of the pharmacies, for example, in India, it's all moving more towards e-pharmacies, for example. You're seeing that kind of a change. Even in manufacturing, for example, our company was recently recognized as one of the first from India to be part of the global lighthouse network. Very prestigious, because a lot of automation which we had invested heavily, it's all paying off because things can be done very differently. Even new technologies, continuous manufacturing, host of technologies that can be practiced at this point of time. So digital is here to stay. Technology has also changed quite a bit. And again, if all this has to come into play, if innovation is something that should really dominate, there is a big aspect, especially in form of what the government should also pitch in, which is what we keep asking for. We ask for change in regulatory system to make things easier, so that more and more of the initial stages of clinical trials that we unfortunately do out of the country because of the time taken, we can do it here. We're also saying that there should be the second part, which is academic and industry collaborations. We're also talking about industrial parks, research parks, which should come up in a big way, where the government also pitches in, which will also help. And the last one we also said was funding, which is also a critical aspect. Most of you would be familiar with it, especially people in the startup space. That this is where I think the government also needs to pitch in, not entirely through, they're taking on the burden, but at least to create that what we especially hope for, which is the venture capital system. It doesn't happen in this country. So that's something all of us, hope that it will happen very soon. So we were very pleased with the budget pronouncements which were made yesterday. At least it talked about academic and industry collaboration. It's a good start. There are also some research incentives which they've talked about. We're still waiting to see in which form they will play out. But at least it's a start to say, going back to the point saying that innovation is crucial if this industry, currently $50 billion, that's the size of the industry, Indian pharmaceutical industry, if it has to go to an aspirational number of $130 billion, which is what all of us are quite sure it will go to by 2030, innovation plays a very important role. So that's where I think all of us are looking forward that all these things will fall into place, and all of us have a role to play in this. It's not just Dr. Reddy's, but all of us have to play a role. People from academia, people from the industry, people from the startup space, everybody has a role to play for us to ensure that we shine, so that, to me personally, it's all about this unfinished agenda, which my father's talked about. It's a challenge to the entire industry, not just for Dr. Reddy's, but to the entire industry, because I think, like I said, we have the capabilities, we have the conviction, we have all the necessary ingredients in place. It all has to come together so that finally there will be a day when all of us in our lifetimes will see an Indian discovered molecule in the global market. That's something all of us. So once again, I wanted to thank ICT for bestowing this honor to me, but more than that, in the name of my father, for instituting this fellowship. I am sure it will inspire a lot of people in this country towards the thing that he was very passionate about, and that is innovation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insight. I would now request Professor M.M. Sharma to say a few words.
Award winner of the day, Satish Reddy, Vice Chancellor, Professor Pandit, Dr. Bhagwat, the provocateur of the day, and his dear wife. I am very delighted that this organization has been carrying out such outstanding work. I want to start by saying that I had the pleasure of knowing Anjali. I was a temporary lecturer in UDCT when he was an undergraduate student, and later on I met him in NCL where he was doing his PhD with Rosami, my lifetime collaborator. Many people do not know, Satish did mention, but Anji Reddy, like Ran Bakshi, but much more than Ran Bakshi, started this cult of R&D and investing heavily in R&D. In fact, it was uncommon, and I was quoting the example that many years ago, he held a meeting in Hyderabad for PhD students in organic chemistry throughout India, selected about 25-30 of them, to tell them what is the future of PhDs in chemistry in the pharma industry. And I happened to give an address and buttress this idea that we have to come out with original molecules. Indians have done damn good work in terms of coming out with better routes for API. Remarkably good. But I want to say something about this whole business of biosimilar. What erythropoietin did and went to $4.5 billion. It became a benchmark. And fortunately, FDA has a protocol now for biosimilars. So it is not all that much of a problem because there is a stated protocol to establish that what you have made is biosimilar. And the scope is unlimited. In the same breath, I want to talk about biotransformation. We are very weak. And this directed evolution for which Francis Arnold got the Nobel Prize is going to revolutionize biotransformation. Unfortunately, we don't have expertise either in terms of computational work or in terms of evolving enzymes. And what remarkable fact this has achieved is something, if you can make vanillin by fermentation, farnesene is already being done, glycols, 1,4-butadiol is being done. Whatever nature does, when we are making now isobutylene, isoprene by fermentation. So, doing this biotransformation work, same way since you mentioned about your done medicinal chemistry, I find medicinal chemistry very weak. We need to buttress, including in the institute I worked all my lifetime, medicinal chemistry is not as strong as we would like to have. And being student, alumnus of ICT, UDCT, I have to say something good about the institute in terms of the DNA it has of publishing in the most outstanding journals of whatever work they do, and at the same time deliver to us. Like what Pandit has done work on cavitation and taken to industry, what J.P. Joshi did for gas inducing impellers. Most hydrogenators have been designed on that principle. In India, we can give many examples. So this is a very unique DNA in the country of an academic institution, and we have become a role model for people to see how industry collaboration. This is yet another example which we see today of university industry collaboration, and very impressive group of people who have come in the exhibition that is been put up is very impressive. I want to compliment Ratnesh and Rajita for organizing this biosimilar. I want to to stress that biosimilars are going to revolutionize the pharmaceutical industry. Biotransformation is going to look at the cost of sitagliptin and atorvastatin and many other drugs where you need optically active intermediates. We have no expertise in India what they need. And I urge captains of industry, academia to do some work in this direction so that we are one up rather than a big follower of what has happened elsewhere. Once again, I'm very delighted to have been invited to this event, and more so in the name of Anji Reddy, and even more so at the award I was going to listen. What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for such kind words. I would now request Professor Bhagwat to share his thoughts.
Professor Sharma, today's awardee, Mr. Satish Reddy, my Vice Chancellor, Professor Pandit, and my colleagues, Ratnesh and Prajakta, and all the dignitaries of the dais and friends. My role today is only to tell you that it was over half a century ago that ICT saw pharmaceutical technology as a branch of study way before others, and the results are for everybody to see. And happy to see that another program which we started almost a quarter century ago, MTech in the bioprocess technology, today many of you are probably graduates of that particular program here. And not only that, the ICT still continues to keep its promise to the industry. And less than 5 years ago, we now have a program specifically in pharmaceutical biotechnology. So I would like to assure all of you from the institute that if there is any such need from the industry side or being foreseen, ICT will be there to respond, ICT will be there to lead and perhaps be the pioneers in most of those. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now invite Dr. Y.K. Gupta on the stage to express his views.
Namaskar. And before I say anything, my great respect to Professor M.M. Sharma. And I feel myself fortunate. I carry a certificate which was signed by him in 1980 as a president of Indian National Science Academy, when I got Young Scientist Award. And incidentally, at that time, the secretary was Professor P.N. Tandon, who was a very dear colleague of my guide, Professor K.P. Bhargava. So I have been listening to about him for many, many years. One of his students, Professor Mashelkar, appointed me as a director of CSIR once upon a time. And so I feel privileged to see him, and somebody helped me to tell me that he is Professor M.M. Sharma. So my apologies for not recognizing you otherwise, but my great respect to you. I seen that, and of course, Dr. Pandit, Dr. Bhagwat, and Ratnesh and his better half. When I see this, the 2 minutes documentary, and I was told by Satish that the young boy who was sitting here, Dr. Reddy, Anji Reddy, was from Jilla Parishad School. And a student from Jilla Parishad, so simple, as you can see the echo of Satish there. So simple person. I think that was perhaps the basis of his brain working for affordability for masses in India. And I will tell you, when in 1980s, when I was looking for a job after doing MD, a couple of my friends joined Dr. Reddy's lab as a scientist. And we were wondering, यार ये कौन सी कंपनी ज्वाइन कर ली जिसका नाम ही नहीं सुना. because they were in APIs and not in the formulation. But now you see today, people look for Dr. Reddy's product for two reasons. One is affordability, another is quality. And we generally say that this is not meeting the two ends. If you make product affordable, perhaps you may compromise quality. And that's why people believe that cheaper version may not be the best version. But this has to be proved. Cheaper version has to be the best, has to be good. Then only it is acceptable. And that's what the challenge is. And we have seen that, once you remember, we have been talking about the Hathi Committee before, just after independence. That was the stress, was how to make healthcare system independent. And at that time, when nothing was available in India, the Dr. Reddy's lab was the first pioneer to develop so many APIs in the country. And once you have API in the country, the prices of the drug are naturally bound to be reduced. And today, we have a challenge of two. One is we have a surplus API, but on the same time, we have an issue of dependency on API, on certain APIs, which we are calling as a critical API. And I chaired that committee to identify what are the critical APIs on certain countries which are not so good, but they are risky countries. And that's why that challenge still remains. And that's why also we are talking of research-linked incentives. From PLI, now we are talking of a research-linked incentive. And I would say that I had an opportunity to be associated with Satish on a couple of forums of CII on the regulatory issues. And his two versions, which I like most, is, Dr. Gupta, can we work some way where the regulatory system in the country can be simplified? And we work for that. And I always say, and he echoed that why we depend on the regulatory framework which we imported from outside. Why not we make our regulatory science so strong that each and every regulation which we follow is based on the science, based on the scientist, which comes from India. And that's what we should work for that. And that's what the forum of like this academia industry collaboration should work for that. I co-chaired with Dr. Satish on one of the very important committee of how industry academia collaboration for innovation should work in country. And couple of recommendations which have been incorporated, one or two, into the budget, that the basis of the budget was the genesis of that committee, how we can increase the research innovation ecosystem, merge with that the industry, and then how the startup which generates. I was listening to one of the today's discussion, industry academia collaboration, did not interject because of my bad throat, but this is what required. And I can see that the forum which you can see in the dais is a true industry academia partnership. And it's not that only Oxford and Harvard can have the fruit of industry academia partnership, but this is the example of IICT and other industries which have created that. Much more need to be done. There are several aims in institution. There are 20 aims. I represent 2, Bhopal and Jammu as a president. But now it is important that such forum can take the advantage of such rich academics available. It's not that we academicians only do the blue sky research. That is important, but it's also important that we penetrate into industry and find out what is needed. Industry comes to the academia to find out what is in their mind, and look, both should look what society needs, what country needs, and that will require the understanding of the epidemiology of the country, the need of the country, and the affordability of the country. Then we will have 1 inch ahead what Dr. Anji Reddy said, unfinished agenda. Thank you very much, and congratulate Dr. Satish very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to invite Mr. K.V. Sundarnath to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. So I'll just take a minute to really give an example how the people have the admiration for Dr. Anji Reddy and the kind of impact that he had. So I come from USP. My ex-boss, Srini Srinivasan, who was a chief science officer and now he's retired, he always used to tell me, Dr. Anji Reddy is a visionary and admired for his contributions to Indian industry, particularly the kind of a foray earlier on he made in the pharma that created a ecosystem in Hyderabad and expanded throughout the India. And it motivated others to invest in the pharma industry. This created so many entrepreneurs in the pharma industry that actually expanded the pharma industry, contributing significantly to the Indian economy as well as the huge employment opportunities. So he used to tell me like several times, of all the people, Dr. Anji Reddy should get Bharat Ratna. So I'm just talking about the kind of admiration the people had. And I'm not just kidding. Several times he mentioned about this. And he comes from US, and then he has so much of admiration to a person who I think actually changed the face of the Indian industry, much so created an ecosystem for the pharmaceutical industry. So it takes a vision and will to achieve a man to become a legend. In my opinion, Dr. Anji Reddy is a legend. The fellowship award is fitting tribute to Dr. Anji Reddy and his vision. And felicitating Mr. Satish Reddy is a tribute to, on this occasion, is an honor for all of us. Continuing his legacy. I just wanted to give another example, the kind of a contribution the Indian industry is doing. USP is a standard setting organization for medicines and biologics as well. So now, right now, the kind of a standard setting we do, more than 50% of the contribution comes from the Indian industry. So kudos to Indian industry that so much of a progress that we have made, so much of a strides we have made, and whole world recognizes that. And Dr. Anji Reddy is one of the pioneers of Indian industry that contributed to the expand of our pharmaceutical industry in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Prajakta Dandikar Jain to deliver a vote of thanks.
It is my honor and pleasure to present the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. At the onset, let me express our sincere gratitude to Mr. Satish Reddy, Chairman of Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, for graciously accepting the inaugural version of Dr. K. Anji Reddy Memorial Fellowship for Affordable Biopharmaceuticals Award. Your honorable participation has set the most treasured precedents for the future awards to follow. We thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor A.B. Pandit, for supporting all our endeavors and encouraging us to keep doing even better. We are honored to have with us Professor M.M. Sharma for this evening. His words, like always, have been sheer inspiration for advancing our work. We are thankful to Professor Bhagwat, Dean Academic Programs, Professor R.R. Deshmukh, Registrar of ICT Mumbai, for their gracious support for all our activities. We are most happy to have with us members of UAA, Udacity Alumni Association, and ICT Mumbai. Your presence has certainly enhanced the charm of this evening. Warm thanks to Dr. Satyam Satyanarayan from Dr. Reddy's laboratories, as well as Madhumita, Priya, and their teams for helping us with the smooth execution of this felicitation program. Special gratitude is reserved for our entire nanomedicine research group for the amazing support over the years and also for this event. And last but not the least, we extend sincere gratitude to the core BSW team, especially Ms. Ashwini Patil, Mr. Ameya Parkar, and Ms. Divya Savant for making this event a grand success. We are thankful to Thermo Fisher for partnering with us for this event, and please excuse me if I may have inadvertently omitted any names today. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. With this, we conclude day 1 of Biosimilar Workshop 2023. It was indeed very exciting. We will see you all tomorrow morning with another set of informative and interacting sessions. Have a good night. Thank you.